Hi everyone, Techo Baz back again. This time for something a little bit different. We are repairing one of these. This is the very famous RE-20 by Electro, a very sought after microphone used in all sorts of applications, mainly at radio stations and recording studios. A big problem with these is there's a couple of little things. The foam gets dodgy inside. You get a rattle. There is also a little disc in the top in the capsule that also gives a little bit of a problem. And once again, you get a little bit of a rattle. So let's try and fix this. It's a reasonably straightforward job. So let's have a look at how I do these and how you can too, with a little bit of care and patience. Okay, let's take a look.
Right, now what we have here on these microphones is a little screw hole in there. We have to loosen that little fella in order to unscrew the top of the microphone. Now, it's an Allen screw. I have the Allen key here, which is fairly small, and it's very small. And I'm actually going to measure, because I'm not sure of the size of this, but we shall measure this. So, looking at that, it's 0.9 mil. So we'll go ahead and here's that fella, and we shall unscrew this little fella. Okay, there he is. Now we don't have to take him right out. We just loosen him off and unscrew the top, like so. Another problem with these fellas is the foam insert in here disintegrating and causing a few problems. It's always a hassle, but this can be replaced. So that's this foam has to be replaced. It's gone sticky, it's falling to pieces, as you can see. So normally I would replace both the foam in the head and the around the capsule itself. Now down here, the next port of call is we have to get that little screw and loosen him to get the end XLR out of there. But it's actually got some, you can just see it there, it has some red adhesive in around the XLR to hold it in place. Normally, I find the easiest way of doing these is just to get a hairdryer or a heat gun, preferably a heat gun, and just warm him up. And as it's warm, the insert comes out quite easily. We shall screw him anti-clockwise, which actually screws the screw in. I have my heat gun. I'm just setting the temperature on more or less warm at the moment. There's a variable heat gun, and we just heat up around the outside gently, and here he comes. and there he is. As you can see, there's a glue type substance around the edges, and once that is done, there is, which you let's see here, can we get in here? Yes. So inside him there's a little Allen screw. Go into him, and sometimes he's fairly tight. We unscrew him. Right, there we go. And the bottom comes off. Now, I want to be able to take everything out of here. This has got to be released. So what I want to do is unsolder this fella. Now, the green nearly always goes to the centre, which is your negative of your balanced output. And the positive, which is number 2, is always on the, look in this plug, always on the right hand side. So, that's our little screw from the centre. This now comes out, and when we're putting the wires back in, it goes in that little hole there, not the centre one, because that's the one that our screw goes in. Right, now I think we'll just stop the video for a moment and clean up a bit of the mess here from, as I said, from this horrible sticky mess of foam, and then we'll come back, and if we grab hold of this and we shake it, we still have that little disc in there that's loose inside this. Okay, we'll come back shortly. Right, well, what I've done here is I've put some paper towel down. I'm just working on an old towel here to just protect everything. Now, 3 small Phillips screws. We take these out. This one, he has a little earth wire wrapped up around there. Now, if we take this little plastic sheath off, there's our wire. We'll straighten him out. He goes around our tag to give us enough wire to release our capsule. There he is. We now take this fellow out. We get this fellow and take our plastic sheath off him. That will give us a length of wire there. Take that fella off and straighten this fellow out. Right, now we carefully pull our wires back through, and we're left with quite a length of wire. We get hold of our capsule and we gradually pull him out, And as you can see, this is what happens with our foam surround. Very sticky, quite messy doing this job, so I suggest some paper towel. It's sticky, it will stick to anything on your bench when you're working on it. It's yeah, it's not good. Now just got to get all that fellow out. Be very careful here because there's some very fine wires that go to the actual capsule itself. Yeah, very easily broken, so when you're getting this out, just be so careful. Because I want to do this, I'm going to unsolder the wires from up this end so that we can get the capsule right out. We'll then clean him up so that he's a bit nicer to work on. When you're doing this, jot down, take a photo, or make sure that your blue and the black are to those particular points when you're putting this back together. Very easy to forget where these fellas go. All we do is pull the blue out, the black, and our little ground wire, which has got the tag on him of the earth tag, which is that little fella. Just be careful pulling him out. Okay, we can now remove that and look in there. This is horrible, not very nice. Now normally what I do with these is get all this rubbish out of them and wash the actual case in warm water, and dishwashing liquid is fine. As you can see, this is what comes out. So we can now wash that fellow out. The same with the head. This is not good. Just try and scoop him out. This also produces a rattle in the whole thing because the foam is in there to stop the actual capsule moving around. And with it like this, certainly moves around. Okay, there we go. So we've got that out, that out. This is the fellow we have to work on. I'm going to go and clean up here now. Our little disc that we're after we've cleaned all this up, is in underneath the top. 2 screws there, but unfortunately we can't go in through the top. We have to go in actually through the bottom. The bottom of this has to come off. Clean this fellow up. We have to get in underneath here, and we'll come back when we've got a few things here a little bit cleaner. Right, here's things cleaned up a little bit. Our little disc is inside here. Now what I'm going to do now is remove these 2 very small screws here that I want to take out, and take the top off, and I will then show you what the task is that we need to do. There we go. So then we take that off. Now this is only showing you what's going on. As you can see, that little disc
inside the little black disc. I'll just get a little bit less light on him there. He moves around. He's at the bottom there, and if we turn him over, and as you saw, he's fallen down again. We turn him round and he falls down. That is the little fella that we have to put in place, and we do that by going in through the bottom of this unit. Right, now the diaphragm, just make sure he's moving okay, which he does. He's fine. Now I took the top off there. We will put it back on to protect this while we're doing it. But for the moment, I took him off to see was there any shavings, metal shavings, or any sort of rubbish around the actual diaphragm. But the diaphragm looks good. It's only a matter of getting that little black fella in place. We'll sit this back on now that I've shown you the difficult task of what we've got ahead of us. I've got a very big blowfly flying around here. I wasn't sure whether it was a blowfly or a small drone. Just tighten them up just so they're not tight, but just snug. So he's protected against anything. Now down the bottom, this disc has to come off. We've got to be very protective of our brass tubing along the sides. We cannot interfere with it too much. And down at the bottom here, we have sort of a goo. It's almost a Loctite. So what I'll do, we get a razor blade. We gradually cut around. Now you do this very gently. Please be careful, don't cut yourself. Very easily done with this. And gradually push him off, and as you can see, he's coming off. We gradually do this very, very carefully. There we go. He's off. Now, I'll put that down there, get him out of the road. Okay, in here we have a little bit of insulation. There is your brass tubes. What we do here, very, very carefully remove our insulation from inside. Like so. Now down in there we have 3 little screws holding this tube onto our base. Now around the base there is a little bit of glue also, so just to enable it a little bit to come off a little bit easier rather, slice around him
and this will help him lift up. Right, now we need a small Phillips screwdriver. We go down in here and take out our screws. Right, there's our 3 screws. Put them aside, somewhere where we're not going to lose them. What we've got to do now is actually cut the tubes away from the sides of our aluminium tube in the centre, just like that. Now we just get hold of this fella and just, we've got to, he's still fairly well glued on there, so we've got to cut in a little bit further, and there he is. Now these fellas can move a little bit because they are just sitting in the top there. We don't have to remove any more now. There's more of that gooey, horrible, disgusting foam in the centre, unfortunately. Get a small screwdriver or whatever and we try and lift him out. Now this one isn't too bad, but it has come to pieces quite a lot. Don't push down too far. There we go. That's him. He's all out. Now from here, inside, we can actually get right down inside there to the little disc that's on top. Remove the top again. Take the top off. Now if we very, very carefully, if we put our stick, a little stick, just up through here, we can touch our little disc. Be very careful doing this. But basically, we have to glue that little disc in the centre. We can actually tap him to get him very close to the centre. Now what we've got to do is glue this little fella in place. So now we'll get our super glue and our gear and get ready to see what we can do with this fella. Okie doke. The magic ingredient for fixing these. Super glue. We have to get in there and put a dab of super glue on the inside to keep that little fella centered. How we do this is we buy some of these little fellas. They very handy for getting super glue into very difficult places. So first of all, we have to get this totally centered. Now what we do here, we get this fella centered right in the center, so we can see that it's very even right around, which it is there. We then put our finger on, hold him down. We then squeeze a little bit of super glue, squirt him up, up he comes, and he's right at the end. We get him right at the end, we go in, we put a little dab on the inside. Then go on the other side and we do the same here. A little dab just on the end. We will give him a little bit of drying time. Our little nozzle, which you can get from, I got it online. I think it came from China, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. I think I got 50 of them for like $6 or $7. Great things for getting into very, very difficult spots. Our diaphragm still working normally. We don't have a rattle. He's secure. And the job looks to be 100% successful. Our little dish our little dome is right in the centre. And yes, everything worked perfectly there by putting glue, super glue, right down around the middle of him, around the edges. It does run down to the edge. Please don't put too much in. We don't need it running out the edge onto your actual voice coil, so that would be a drama. Everything is okay. Our diaphragm still moves nicely. I think we can call this a success. No more rattles. Done. And he doesn't move. He's good. Okay, so the next part of this is putting some new foam back on, and certainly putting some foam in your windshield at the top. I've cleaned all these up, hot water, hot soapy water, everything worked fine. And these fellas, well, once I let this dry a bit, we'll put the top, actually probably now, we can put the top back on. As far as protecting, it wouldn't be good to do this job and then accidentally drop a screwdriver on it or something like that. Wouldn't be real good. Or put a screwdriver through the diaphragm. All the good work would then be down the drain. Okay, now we need to put on our tube. Now we've got a little bit of glue there, which is sort of soft, so I'm not going to take any of that off. Going to put him back on. If we can get him back in the position where he come off, that appears to be. Now we need to put a little bit of insulation in there where the foam came out, so we'll do that, and then I'll go and grab some and we'll come back. Now we'll put this tube back on and put the screws back in him. As you can see there, 3 little Phillips screws that we took out. Now these are magnetic, so it makes it a little bit handier. We've put in a little bit of dampening material inside it, so the last thing you want is one of these screws going down that centre hole in the back of the diaphragm. Very difficult to get out. So there we go. Now we get our little bit of insul and we put him in there like so. This fella goes back the same way as he come off, so that your wires from your actual cartridge come down the side and certainly don't cross over the side anywhere. Okay, so we pull our black down, blue, that will hold them in place, and now what we'll do is put a little bit of hot glue just around the sides, just to keep our bottom back on and sealed.
We'll heat our heat gun up and come back and do that. Well, good morning everyone. We're back in the workshop this morning, and yesterday we finished up by putting some hot glue around the base of this fella, and we've got him all together. So now it's time to put some of the foam on. First of all, I want to get the piece cut for the top. I find it easier to roll him up, put him in there and let him expand. That way we can get right to the end quite easily. It doesn't want to catch on the gauze. Okay, the top down here, start with a square, cut the edges off him, and he looks like so, and we can pop him down right to the end. Right, we now have the foam inserted in the head of the mic. Now, I know this is different to the factory job, and I know there's going to be people saying, oh, you don't do it like that, I do it like so, or there's always other ways of doing things. This is just the way I do it. I have had 100% success with what I've done. I could be doing it wrong compared to a lot of people, but I'm just showing you the way I put the mics together. Now we'll just pause him for a moment and we'll grab some more foam. Okay then, we have our foam. It's a very open air type foam. We put a spot of glue on the bottom here, and we glue our foam on just at that point. I'm not going to glue the top because we need the top to sit nicely when we push the capsule in. Now we roll and bring him round. We will put a little bit more glue just along there, just enough to hold him, like so. We have our ports down each side, our air ports, which actually go up under the diaphragm and allows the diaphragm to move freely. They have to line up with the vents in the side of this. So make sure that you position them, which you can feel them when you're pushing this together. We can bring our wires out the bottom here, like so. We push this fellow in and we trim off the excess. He's at the bottom in there at the moment. You can actually see the lip where he sits in the bottom there, which is just below the level of the top. Screw our top on until he's firm and tight. We now tighten him up. Doesn't have to be overly tight, as long as he certainly won't come out. So we put him in there, just nip him up. He won't come out. Right, that's our top of the mic complete. Now we've got to get our wires through that little hole so they come out the top to be soldered on the terminals. We just go in through there. Okay, blue wire, the same, black wire. Pull all our wires through gently. This fellow goes down and sits like so. Okay,
we bring these fellas out that side, those fellas out that side. What I want to do is put this earth underneath that screw. Some people put it under different screws. It really doesn't matter. It's a ground. Fold him over like so. You may have wire strippers. I just use cutters. Pre-tin the wires, make them nice and easy to put on our terminals. These are different impedance settings. I'm resoldering where the wires were when we took this one apart. Now, we get hold of these fellas and we do the same thing as what we did with the other little wires. Sort of wrap him around. We get our little pieces of plastic, push him on, and we do the same with the other fella. If these fellas are ever, these little plastic pieces, are ever too hard to get on, just warm them a bit with your hairdryer or a heat gun, whatever you've got, just slightly, so they go on more easily than when they're cold. Okay, and that's it. Now for the bottom. Now these two wires, the red and the green, which is our balanced output of the diaphragm itself, put him down that little hole, not this one, because our screw has to go in there. They're out through the bottom. Now we've got this fellow here, this little bracket that goes out to the side. If you see on the mic, we'll give you a bit closer look, we have a little indent in there. So we put this fellow on, so all lines up. Now, Allen screw, get our Allen screw. Easier to tip the mic up so you don't lose the screw and doesn't fall off the end, and screw him up. Once again, doesn't have to be extremely tight, just nip him up, solder our wires on. So, can you remember the XLR connections? Centre is negative, or the green in this case. Soldering on, like so. Give him a little bit of a twist so that our wire will spiral in and push him in. He should go in okay. We've aligned the little indent and I can see the screw in there. We then turn him clockwise to undo him, which brings the screw up against the wall, and that's it. Our mic should be now ready, working, and we shall test it. Okay, we're back again. I've got my little test set here and plugged him in, and we won't be able to hear it in the camera, but put the gain up and I can, bit of feedback there, I can actually hear that he's working absolutely perfectly. We'll just move the headphones away a bit. Okay, 1 2 1 2, and as we can see, I've had a listen in the headphones and it sounds, just back the gain off a little bit there, it does sound absolutely amazing. Very, very happy with the results. So there we go. There we go, people. That's how we fix an RE-20 microphone. And no more rattles. Working like a charm. New foam surround, everything is back to how it should be. And we can keep using it in our studio or recording studio, whatever we have. Maybe we're using one of these on air, which absolutely beautiful microphones. Okay guys, that wraps this one up, and I hope you enjoyed my version of rebuilding the RE-20s. As I said, lots and lots of people do these differently. This is how I do them, and I've had possibly with 20, 30 of these, I've had 100% success. So yeah, that speaks for itself. Okay then, until next time, bye for now.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my video on how I repair the RE-20 mics. It's my way of doing them, and hopefully you've picked up a little bit of some tips and tricks on how to resurrect your old mics that you may have laying around and thought they were just beyond it. Okay then, until next time, click the like button if you really like the video, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.